Hello students and welcome to our today's class. In our today's class, I want us to pick from where we left last time, where we were talking about the accounting statements for the non-profit making organizations. And we said that the non-profit making organizations are those organizations which are established with no intention of making profit. Yesterday, or in our previous lesson, we looked at what the non-profit making organizations are. We also talked about their sources of finance. And in a nutshell, we looked at the statements that are prepared. Today, I want us to look into details about the statements that are prepared, starting with the first one, which is the receipt and payment account. The receipt and payment account, it is simply a summary of a cash book, whereby on the left-hand side, we record all the cash and checks received. On the payment side, we record all the cash and checks issued. So at the end of the day, we are going to have the balance. That is the total cash received, you subtract the total cash paid, then you will have the balance at the end of the financial year. Here are the brief characteristics of this particular account. Number one, it is a summary of the cash book. Number two, all the cash received during the whole year are recorded on the left-hand side, which is actually the debit, while the cash payments during the whole year are written on the right-hand side, which is actually the credit. Cash received and cash payments of both capital and revenue nature are recorded here. And also, only cash transactions are recorded in this account. That is to say, we don't record any credit transaction. It generally shows debit balance in case of a bank overdraft. And in this case, remember, you can find that the receipt and payment account can have any balance, that is either debit balance or the credit balance. If it is a debit balance, the receipt is more than the payments. But if it is a credit balance, the payments are more than the receipts, and that is a case of the bank overdraft. And then its closing balance indicates the closing cash in hand and the closing cash at bank. And it's not an account within the double entry system. That is to say, it is not maintained with the double entry concept in mind. And then it is prepared on the last day of the accounting year or the financial year. Another statement that we prepare in the non-profit making organization is the income and expenditure account. And this one we said substitutes the trading profit and loss account when it comes to the profit-making organization. And the sole aim of preparing this account is to determine whether we have got a deficit or a surplus in terms of the income and the expenditures. So we shall record all the incomes, and then we subtract all the expenditures, and then from there we can establish whether we have a surplus or a deficit. And you will find that this particular account is going to give us a figure which we are going to add to accumulated fund. Remember, we said accumulated fund is the name that we normally use instead of capital when it comes to the non-profit making organization. If it's a surplus, we shall add it to the accumulated fund. If it's a deficit, we shall subtract from the accumulated fund. The other account, which is actually the last one that we shall prepare, is the statement of financial position. The statement of financial position is the same as the balance sheet. And in this case, we intend to determine all the assets, liabilities, and the accumulated fund the organization has, all those particular balances it had throughout the financial year. And at this particular juncture, we can now go straight to our business, which is actually preparing the accounts that we must prepare when it comes to this particular question. And one of the accounts that you must prepare in this particular question is the subscription account. The subscription account, the question might not tell you prepare the subscription account, but it is upon the learners to know that this particular account needs to be prepared, whether told or not. You will find that we said the subscription is the amount of money the organization gets from its members periodically at the end of a specified period. It can be yearly, it can be monthly, it can be semi-annually, whichever the mode of payment, it does not matter. So in this case, the subscription account is normally prepared because of the different scenarios that we shall receive this money in form of subscription from the members. Some members might opt to pay subscription for even 3 years. Others, you will find a case whereby the year has come to an end, yet they have not paid the subscription for that year, and many other scenarios. So in this case, we are going to have subscription received in advance, subscription in arrears, and so on. And when we talk about subscription received in advance, these are members who have paid upfront amount for subscription before the time of payment comes. Like for example, I might decide this 2020, I pay the subscription for 2020 and also pay for 2021. So I have paid the subscription for 2021 in advance. Yet that money has been received in this financial year. Because that money has been received in this financial year, but they are meant to be utilized in the following financial year, we cannot include that amount as our subscription for this year. We need to minus because that money is going to be utilized in the period where it belongs, which is actually the next financial year. At the end of the financial year, some members have not paid their subscription for this current year, meaning that the money that we are supposed to receive this year is less because of those members who have not paid. Anything that is in arrears, we need to include it. That is as per the accrual concept of accounting. We can find another scenario whereby we are in this year 2020, but some members paid the subscription for the year 2020 in the year 2019. They paid in advance in the year 2019. That money will be utilized this year. So those many scenarios requires now the accountant to prepare the subscription account, which is normally meant to determine the amount of money that is supposed to be recorded in the books of accounts for the current financial year. That is to say, the subscription account is prepared so that we can be able to determine the amount of money that will be taken to the income and expenditure account as subscription income. So the subscription account will have this format as indicated here. Because subscription is money coming in to the non-profit making organization, you will find a case whereby this amount is supposed to be credited because actually any revenue is supposed to be credited. So the amount that we have received this year, the total cash received as subscription during the current year is recorded on the credit side. And this amount of money, you are going to find it in the receipt and payment on the receipt side. Remember, we have talked about the receipt and payment account. The receipt and payment account records all the money received and the money paid. So on the receipt side of the receipt and payment, which is actually the debit side of the receipt and payment account, you are going to find this figure indicated there. So you pick this figure from there, you put it here. This is the total cash that was received as subscription for this year. But note, not all that cash belongs to the current year. Not all that cash that was received this year is meant for this year. Because, one, some members never cleared their subscription for their previous year, but they have paid that particular arrears this year, meaning that that money is included here. It is included here, yet it is not for this year. What we normally do, we minus and record it here. This is subscription in arrears brought down, not corrected during the previous year, but it has been corrected here. We put it here. Remember, we said in accounting, when a figure is credited and then there's another one that is debited, in simple terms, we are subtracting those figures. So this that was received and it was not for this year, we record here, meaning that it is subtracting this figure. Another amount that we are going to find not meant for this year, it is subscription in advance carried down, meaning that it was corrected this year, but it is going to be utilized the following year, or it was meant for the following year. You record it here. This is corrected for subsequent year or the following year. So it was corrected here, or it was received the current year, but it is not for this year. We also minus. At this particular juncture, I hope students, you are able to understand what we are subtracting here. It is what is not meant for the current financial year. This one is for the previous financial year. This one is for the next financial year. So we subtract them. Then let us talk about these two. This subscription is received in advance brought down. Remember, the previous year, some members had paid for their subscription even for the following year. So it was received the previous year, but it was meant for this current year. So we include it here. And then at the end of the current financial year, some members have not cleared their current subscription amount. So we put it here. So what you should be able to realize, this amount and this amount are the amount that are for this year. This was received last year, but those members had paid for this year. This one has not been received by the end of this year, but will be received the following year. But we include it here because it was supposed to be received. So here we include what was supposed to be for this year, and here we include what is not supposed to be for this year. What is in between these? This is the cash received. But what is here now? It is the amount of money that was meant for this year only now. And this is the figure that we are preparing the subscription account to determine. Student, when we are preparing the subscription account, this is the figure that we want to determine. All these will be given in the question, but this one will not be given. This is what you want to determine. And how do you get it? You add these figures, then you minus this and this to get this. Add the total here, put it here. This total minus this and also minus this. The figure that you are going to get is going to be the subscription that was supposed to be received this year. And that is what you take to the income and expenditure account as income, because subscription is income. And then you'll find now it is going to balance. I want to repeat one more time because of the importance of this account when it comes to an examination. On this side, record the cash that was received as subscription, and this figure you just uplift it. You just borrow it or just bring it from the receipt and payment account. This is the subscription corrected last year, but those members had paid for last year and this year. So that figure that was for this year, you bring it here. This one is the figure not corrected this year. You put it here. So this and this are the figures that were supposed to be for this year. Then you minus. This is for the subscription that was supposed to be paid last year, but they have been received this year. We minus because they are for last year. This one, it is actually the subscription that was received this year, but is for next year. This is received this year, meaning that this amount and this amount, they are included here, but because they are not meant for this year, we put them on the other side, which is the debit side, so that we can subtract them from here. And then the balancing figure. This is the same as the balance carried down for this account. And then it balances like that. Upon doing that, you are home and dry. But I want to send a very strong reminder. In an examination setup, you might not find all these figures. You might find maybe the question has given you this one, it has given you this one, and it has given you this one. This one is not there. By the fact that it is not there, it does not mean that the question has got an error. The question is very correct. You just work with what is there. If it is not there, then just leave it. Then work with this plus this plus this, you minus this to get this without including this. In other cases, you can find you have been given this one and this one and this one. You just work with what you have to get this one. But this one you must be given. This one you must be given. But the other four, this one, this one, this one, and this one, you can find a question where all of them are there. You can find a question where you have been given two. In certain case, you have been given three. You work with what is there. If it is this and this and this, you just add this, then you minus this to get this, and then you are okay. At that point, I want to say, let us meet in our next lesson so that we can prepare the income and expenditure account and also prepare the statement of financial position. Thank you very much.